Welcome to Booked, the bookstore education podcast brought to you by the American Booksellers Association. In this episode, we'll be listening to eCommerce Trends, a session that was presented at Winter Institute 2026 in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania.
Let me just go through the initial stuff, and then and you bounce in right after that. Sure. Okay. Good morning, everyone. You should be in eCommerce trend session, which is what this is. So what we're going to do is I'm going to go through some notes in the beginning, and then we'll just kind of jump into things. Andy's going to do a presentation in the beginning with his stuff, and then I'm going to do some stuff, and then we're going to open it up. We're going to try to open it up very quickly to questions. We found that to be a pretty good thing. Yeah. So we'll take it from there. So, so access to all slide decks and handouts via the Wi2026 app, the program page, and this will all be online on bookweb.org. Complete session evaluations available in the app as well. The session is being recorded, and it'll be available to everybody here and anybody else who wants to take a look at it. Again, that'll be on bookweb.org. If you have cell phones on, if you could silence them, that'd be great. I think I have to silence mine. Yes. No. Yes. Questions and comments, raise your hand. And this is kind of key. Wait for the person who has the microphone to run over to you. Finn, are you the runner on this? I think you are the mic. You're the room minder. So Finn will run. Finn will bring you the microphone, which we have at the end. Walk briskly. So Finn, the microphone's at the end of the counter. It's switched off whenever we'll get there. Let's go on to the next one here. Okay, we just went through that. And antitrust guidelines. These are so much fun. All right, let me see here. Booksellers are encouraged to share ideas and support during the conference, but the Sherman Antitrust Act prohibits them from discussing price or pricing policies, boycotts, dividing up the market. For more information, take a look at the bookweb.org website. Let's go to the next one. Okay, current state of updates in e-commerce and future of e-commerce. So I'm going to be doing the current state, and Andy's going to be doing some future stuff, and I have some future stuff as well. And Andy Hunter.
Hi all, I'm the founder and CEO of bookshop.org.
And I'm Phil Davies. I'm the director of indie commerce at the ABA. And let's get to it. And I believe this is all yours.
Okay, so there's a big difference online right now between even 2020 and 2026. If bookshop.org launched in 2026, it would have been a lot harder to spread the word about it because platforms like Facebook have dramatically curtailed the reach of any post that links out. So if you post a cat reading a book on your Facebook profile and it doesn't link anywhere, a lot of people that follow you will see it. If you post a link to bookshop.org, almost none of your Facebook followers or fans will see it because Meta wants you to pay for that. So if they detect that you're linking out to a site, even a news site, but especially an e-commerce site, they're like, this should be a paid post. And so they don't, even if you have 100,000 followers. Electric Literature, which I founded in 2009, has 250,000 followers. And if I post a link to bookshop.org, it'll get like 2 likes. Twitter is the same way, or X is the same way. And people try to get around it, and you can get around that by posting the link in the reply. So when you post something, post a great rave review about a perfect staff pick that you love. Don't put the link in that post, but put it in the first reply. Then you won't flag the algorithm as much. So that's a little trick. But in general, it's important to note that these platforms are becoming less and less useful. And honestly, like politically, they're becoming more and more sketchy to use. Twitter and X Our revenue dropped 74% last year, and I think it dropped a similar amount the year before. So in 2020, Twitter was a massive way that people found out about bookshop.org. By 2026, most of our audience has left, and because they punish link outs, people can't talk about us the way they used to. So those are becoming less useful. And then in the kind of spirit of these platforms becoming walled gardens, and it's what they call audience capture. They want that audience to stay on their platform. They don't want them to leave for any reason. TikTok wants you to scroll endlessly on TikTok. They don't want you to link out to somebody's bookstore and buy a book and then go read a book instead of being on TikTok. That would be crazy. So all of these sites try to have audience capture and try to prolong the engagement of the people on their platform. And it makes it a real challenge to use those to drive e-commerce the way they used to. Now, and TikTok, I've been looking a lot at TikTok Shop. You might have experimented with TikTok Shop. Bookshop might get into TikTok Shop depending on how the political fallout of their new owners goes. If TikTok goes the way of X, we're not going to go on TikTok Shop even if we think it's potentially lucrative. But even with TikTok Shop driving a lot of sales now, TikTok doesn't share the email addresses of your customers with you. So even these places like TikTok is experiencing a boom in e-commerce, but you don't get to talk to that customer. You can only talk to them through their platform. You do get to find out their address, and you could slip in a card or something like that, but you don't get their email contact from TikTok Shop. So that's a growing section, and Pinterest also is doing a lot of e-commerce. But again, like TikTok Shop, they want the customer to check out on their platform. So they're not taking you, TikTok Shop doesn't take you to your bookstore website. They want you to set up a TikTok Shop and sell your books through TikTok. They want checkout to occur on TikTok. Same with Pinterest. They want checkout to occur on Pinterest. It doesn't mean you can't sell books there. There are some publishers and some innovative, scrappy booksellers that are selling a lot of books on TikTok Shop, but it does have that kind of audience capture and disintermediation that you should be aware of. Now, it's not all bad news. I tend to think of like technology's effect on humanity as a constant like immune system battle. Like it's like when you get a virus and everything starts to get terrible and you get horribly sick, but then eventually you start to recover because your white blood cells kind of figure out a way around it and start fighting back. And I think that happens a lot when people start to use technology to try to consolidate power. Then it opens opportunities for new platforms that are antithetical to that approach to thrive, and people move to those platforms. And I think bookshop.org is actually one example of that, and there's other examples of that right now. Blue Sky is a very politically active community. It's like not as like fun as something like Threads, but it's thriving, and it drives a lot of traffic to bookshop.org now. Blue Sky is growing, and they don't punish link outs. So if you have a Blue Sky account and you want to post about books, you can get an audience there. And if you have 10,000 followers and you post about a book and link to your website or link to bookshop.org, those followers will see that post. So Blue Sky is growing by double or triple digits every year in terms of referrals to Bookshop. Substack, and along with Substack, there's other alternative newsletter platforms like Beehive and Ghost and a couple of others. Patreon is doing more newsletter platform stuff too. Like there are certain Substackers that drive consistent revenue to bookshop.org, and we're seeing Substack growing in the triple digits. So that's a real writer's platform. And same with Ghost. Like Ghost is like the more indie version, and Beehive is the more indie versions of Substack. Now that Substack has taken venture capital, and some people aren't crazy about Substack, but there are alternatives. The one thing that they all have in common are it's long form writing. So it's kind of where the readers are going. And so it can be a really powerful approach to try to get people on Substack to link to you. And there are Substackers that consciously link to independent booksellers every time they do a newsletter, and they try to choose between them. So if you kind of get to know who your Substack fans are, or if your local shoppers are on Substack, maybe they would link to you. I mean, we're trying to get them to link to us. If you want to get them to link to you, that's even better. If you have an e-commerce website and you want them to form a relationship. So that's another place where we're seeing growth. YouTube is also growing, and YouTube does not punish link outs. They're not directly in the video, but oftentimes people will put like a buy the book link in the description of a YouTube video. So I'd say, like, of the places to go if you're feeling like, these other platforms aren't working as well anymore, consider YouTube, Substack, newsletter platforms, and Blue Sky. Those are where we're seeing growth right now. Another thing I want to mention is that shopping on social media is 20% of e-commerce, and it's growing a lot. And there have been booksellers, and I think there might be some in this room, and I'd love to hear from you during the Q&A, who have experimented with live shopping. We have not done any live shopping, so I can't give you first-party data on what live shopping is like, but I know it is an increasingly popular form of selling books or selling anything online. So if you can live stream an author appearance, live stream book signings, try to get customers to get excited and buy during the live stream, it's working in other sectors. I don't see a ton of booksellers doing it yet. I know that some have experimented, but it is driving a lot of growth in e-commerce. And so it's something you might want to look at. If you can start just by Googling, like, how to do live social sales. And there's tons of tutorials, videos on how to do it. There's lots of different platforms that provide that functionality. And so if you have a big audience on a certain platform, see if you can try something like that. The great thing about it is that there's really very little cost for failure. If you try it and it doesn't work, it's slightly embarrassing and you sell 10 books, but you probably will learn something. So I'm all for experimenting as much as you can. TikTok I already got into, and Bookshop is not sure if we're going to really dive into TikTok Shop or not this year, but it is 20% of all social e-commerce. So TikTok is the gorilla in the room when it comes to social e-commerce right now. Now, if we do go into TikTok, if Bookshop does, we can set it up so that any bookstore that is a TikTok channel is an affiliate. And the reason that that's useful is because you can sell your any book through our TikTok shop and get 30% of the cover price if we do that, which means you don't have to maintain your own TikTok shop with your own inventory listings and your own customer service, which can be a real bear. They're very strict about shipping within 48 hours of receiving the order and all this bureaucratic red tape. If we did it, then we would have the ability to let any bookstore that has a TikTok affiliate with us, sell books through your TikTok channel, and Bookshop would do all the fulfillment, and you would just get the commission of 30%, which is the entire profit margin. There's nothing left over after 30% when you take into account their fees and processing fees. So we're not sure that we're going to do that yet because we're waiting to see what happens now that TikTok has this new ownership that is partly Larry Ellison, but we're watching and we'll let you know if that changes.
Next one.
Sure. Okay. So basically, Phil has got a lot to say about AI affecting traffic. Is this your slide or my slide? I can't
You asked me
remember.
to drop in there.
All right. So the stats here are from
Google search.
Google search for eCommerce.
Yeah. So Google search for eCommerce. I think we had our referrals from Google had dropped down substantially. So the percentage there, I believe it's, 8 point something, or almost 9%?
Yeah, like a 9% drop.
A 9% drop.
The gist of this change is that AI is being forced on all of us, whether we like it or not. It is appearing everywhere, and especially it's appearing in search. And your top search right now is either a Google shopping listing, which probably isn't good for you because Amazon dominates those Google shopping listings, or it's an AI summary, which pushes your results down the page on Google. And a lot of people don't go past the AI summary. It's worse for news sites and editorial sites. They're seeing drops of between 17 and 40% in traffic because people who used to go to read about like the best vacation spots in Puerto Rico are now getting the AI summary and not clicking through. But the same thing can happen to somebody who's searching for a book if they want to know about the latest David Sedaris book, and maybe you would be in that answer, and your link would be in the top 10. Now they'd have to go past a Google AI summary. And so the AI summaries are sucking up a lot of traffic, and it's going to get worse. Also, because AI is a voracious beast that wants as much material as it can to generate content, AI has unleashed billions of scraper bots on the internet. And so we get a lot of garbage traffic now that are actually AI bots that are going from page to page of our websites and scraping it. So it looks like traffic is up by like 40% because you're like, wow, we got 1 million visitors last week. But 400,000 of them didn't buy anything, but visited every single page on our site. So a lot of AI scrapers are out there. There are companies like Cloudflare that are looking to how to fight them. But right now, they're winning, and that does make it hard to look at your Google Analytics and really know what your conversion rate is, for example. So a conversion rate, for those of you not familiar, is like out of 100 visitors, how many bought? So if out of 100 visitors, 3 buy, then your conversion rate is 3%. We like to see conversion rates of between 3 to 6% for e-commerce sites. If half of your traffic is bots, even if you're at 5%, it's going to look like you're 2.5%. And it can really confuse you in terms of what pages are popular, all that. So this is like a signal to noise ratio issue that is becoming a bigger and bigger problem. And I wish I could say right now in this session what the solution is. It's kind of whack-a-mole right now, and there isn't a good solution, but there are companies working on good solutions. And like Cloudflare is going to try to make AI companies pay for bot scraping. And they control a lot of the infrastructure of the internet. So there might be hope on the horizon. But right now, it's very, very tricky to filter out all these AI bots. And the AI summaries are making old techniques like SEO less effective. They're not completely ineffective, and Phil is going to talk more about them later, but they're getting less effective.
Yeah, just really quickly along the same lines, we had an attack on our 1.0 website last week or 2 weeks ago at this point. So does everybody here know what an IP address is? It's an identifier that's given to everybody who goes across the internet. So usually a bot comes in with one IP address and goes and scrapes with that IP address across the entire site. So we had 600,000 pages scraped. 596 IPs did that. 596,000 IPs did that. So it's almost a ratio of 1 IP per 1 page. You can't track that. And that's just one bot coming through, and it's changing the IP address every time. So it shows up in Google Analytics as a person, because and then when you look at your Google Analytics, it's going to throw it off completely. So we're in this, as Andy says, this is a whack-a-mole. This is something this is unprecedented. It's not just us. It's not just bookstores. It's across retail on the internet right now entirely. It's these bots are coming in. They're scraping for information. They're trying to put it in to their AI. And they're looking for the kind of content that we have. I mean, everybody on the e-commerce platform has 14 million titles. You guys have 14 million titles as well, because we have similar sources. So they want that information, and they're doing everything they possibly can to do it. And once you stop them in part way, they come at another page or another site, or they try a different way, and they're constantly changing. So it's incredibly frustrating.
So a little bit more about ChatGPT and AI chatbots. 800 million weekly users of Google's Gemini, 800 million of ChatGPT. Gemini has 750 million users weekly. AI overviews are in 20% of searches. So, and ChatGPT is starting to send traffic to bookshop.org. Not a ton. But this is like, if you're like me and have serious concerns about AI, it can be something of a moral dilemma, but it's happening whether or not we like it. So we really feel at Bookshop that we need to make sure that we're on top of it, which means that if If ChatGPT is going to start telling 800 million people a week where they can buy their books, we want ChatGPT to tell people to shop at local bookstores, right? Even if we don't love ChatGPT and we're concerned about the climate impact, et cetera, we don't want to cede that battleground to Amazon and say, all right, we're not touching it. Amazon can have all of that traffic. That's kind of like what, booksellers did with e-commerce 15 years ago when Amazon started to grow. And we don't want to make those kind of mistakes again. We want to be there fighting for our own interests in an environment where other people are fighting for their interests. So we are looking really carefully at ChatGPT and trying to figure out if they do start selling products, which they're planning on doing, that we can get in there somehow. And because otherwise it's gonna go to big box retailers, Walmart, Target, Amazon, the people who have the ability to spend a ton of money with ChatGPT because it's also a huge money pit. So I'm not sure exactly how that's gonna go. Right now we're interested in generative engine optimization, which is like SEO for search engines. And what the things that matter there are, there's something called schema markup, which makes it easier for web crawlers to read your pages. And I'm sure that eCommerce is working on it. Bookshop is working on trying to have great schema markup so that they really understand that we're selling these books and that they can easily recommend them and that they have all the information that they need to recommend them. And then also social mentions make a big difference for visibility. So like all of those crawlers, they're crawling Reddit to find out like who's talking about what. And if Reddit has a lot of people saying that your bookstore is great, or if social media, if like you have a presence on social media, it's kind of like SEO in that they're looking for signals that this is a valid answer to give people. And so the more signals there are out there, the more likely they are to recommend you. And it's still in its infancy. Like right now, ChatGPT is doing very little e-commerce. It's doing very little direct linking to e-commerce sites. It happens occasionally, but we expect it to happen more and more. And so we're going to try to be on top of that as it changes. And of course, we'll communicate with Phil and eCommerce to make sure that everybody can meet that moment as it starts to grow. I think this is a future trend. It isn't really a big issue right now, but we expect it to be a big issue in the next couple of years.
This is mine now. Okay. All right. So if you looked at your Google Analytics data recently, you may have noticed that your traffic is increasing, but referrals to your website, and we had discussed this earlier, and Google search results are dropping. These are indicators that the internet we built our businesses on decades ago is radically changing. For 2 decades, the deal was simple. You put up a website, Google sends you people, and those people buy books. But right now, that deal is breaking. So Google is answering questions with AI instead of sending traffic to your website. Bots are flooding your website, making it look like you have thousands of customers, but that's not the case. It's loud, it's chaotic, and frankly, it's exhausting. I'm here to show you that even though the algorithms are changing, there are ways to adapt. So this is what we saw in the past. You can see on the screen. The version on the left side is you would just get a listing of websites to go visit when you got your results. And the new version is quite different. It just gives you an answer. This is called no-click. So you're not clicking through. The customers are not clicking through anymore. And this is something Andy had discussed earlier. So the impact is when someone searches for best cookbooks for beginners, AI now summarizes the answer. The user gets the info without even visiting a website. And that's a big, 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 big change. The result is we are seeing a decline in informational traffic, people looking for lists and reviews, but transactional traffic, people searching for a specific book title to purchase, is remaining steady. Now, it's a question of how to get the AI to pay attention to point to those things. The takeaway, you can no longer rely on Google to be your primary discovery engine for new customers. So Andy had touched on this earlier. So getting folks out of social media and under your control is a big deal. You're basically, when you're on a social media platform and you're promoting your bookstore, you're renting that space. those customers are not yours. They belong to that social media platform. Trying to drive them back to your website and basically sign up for something. So the shift is you have to stop waiting for people to come to your site to discover books. You must post the content, reviews, lists, videos directly onto Instagram, TikTok, Facebook, YouTube. You have to provide value on the platform to get their attention, even though you don't own that platform. So the danger of rented lands, why can't they stay there? The risk is, while you can use social media for discovery, you cannot build your business foundation there. Algorithms change, and that's a big deal. I early on in the internet, I had a very, very large website. It had 800 merchants on it and almost 1 million products. And Google changed their algorithm. And within a week, our sales dropped by 3/4. Just dramatic, very, very dramatic changes. One of the early changes that Google was making when they do these updates that take place. People kept very close look on these things. I learned that lesson that you have to try and spread out your marketing as much as possible because we were so heavily involved in getting that organic traffic from Google. So that's absolutely a key. I can't emphasize this enough that if you're relying on social media or any one thing, just spread it out as much as you possibly can and try to get control of that customer. That's a huge, huge, huge deal here. And email is a key to being able to do that. Driving the customer to your website, giving them something in return for that email address. So, and that's the bridge that you're trying to build. You're trying to get them off of social media. You're trying to get them to sign up. You're trying to get them on your mailing list. And you want to get control of that customer. Maybe inviting them in for, if you have tickets for an event in your area, maybe offer them 50% off or 100% off or something like that, just to get them on your customer, get them your customer. So we talked about this a little bit, but I'm going to go over it one more time because this is a big, big deal here. The phenomenon is you see 1,000 visitors on your website, and it looks like what's going on, and then you start to get concerned about why aren't getting those sales from them. It's bots. It's just the AI bots. They're just pulling in massive amounts of data right now. And it's just, it's a huge, huge problem. Like we're using very advanced features. I know Andy's using a company called Cloudflare. We use another company called AGCDN. And the company that we host with has changed their entire pricing structure because they can't bill us based on traffic anymore. Because they have a hard time. This is somebody who's trying to make money from us. They can't tell the humans from the bots. And so now we're in this position where we're using these new things called JA3. It's a signature that everything that comes across the internet does, and it's not just the IP address. There's multiple elements that are involved in this. This is kind of a new thing, and they're now coming out with JA4. It's turned into this it's almost like a nuclear war that's going on. They're just lobbing things back and forth, trying to do countermeasures and everything else at this point. It's using a ton of time on our side, and I'm sure Andy's dealing with this a lot with Cloudflare. So it's a big deal. So if you get into a position where you find that your website, and on our platform, you can contact staff@bookweb.org and let us know things are slowing down. On the new 2.0 platform that we have, every website is on its own, basically, virtual server. So if one website goes down, it doesn't take down the entire platform like it did on the 1.0 platform. So you have to let us know. You have to come to us and say, there's something going on, we're slowing down, we're getting 404 errors, something's happening, we got to know. And then we're going to go and do something that's specific to your website because it's just hitting your website. And we get alerted, we get what's called a critical alert. You can come onto our platform and say, my site's down, or I can't process orders, or customers are noticing that their credit card numbers aren't going through. And a critical alert goes and notifies our developers and wakes me up in the middle of the night. I wake up a developer and it gets taken care of. We pride ourselves on being able to offer that level of customer support, but it's also becoming more and more frequent now. And we're trying to come up with ways to stop this incredible flood of bot traffic that's coming through. It's just amazing. Okay. New thing, a trend. The line between online and offline, I'm going to switch back now to something else. The trend between online and offline is gone. Customers pre-shop online and buy in-store, or browse in-store and buy online later. The human premium in an AI world, Human curation is a luxury product. AI can recommend a book based on data. You can recommend a book based on how it made you feel. This is a big deal. Talk about that human element. That's something that AI can't produce. That's a very, very big plus for independent bookstores. The action, buy online, pick up in store. So we have on the eCommerce platform, you have the ability to do that. We're pushing this a little bit further now, and we've been doing a practice run with McLean & Aiken, where we're taking their LSI data, this is their local store data from their POS system, and we're pushing it into Google Merchant Center. Google Merchant Center has free classifieds. You may have seen these before. At the top of the page, when you see the search results, you'll see products that are listed. They're starting to prioritize local listings. And these are free initially. You can pay and get higher ranking. You're still competing against Amazon and Walmart and all these other companies that are pushing out books. But Merchant Center is a really, really interesting thing. And we're seeing some very positive results of these initial tests that we've done, just the amount of traffic that's being generated. This is to kind of make up for what we've lost with the normal SEO Google search results. This is kind of throwing the product out in front of the customer. It's local. If they're doing local bookstore near me that has this title, you're very likely to have that pop up right in front of you right away and say, okay, it's available, it's in stock, it's in the store. This was a very, very difficult thing to set up with Google because they actually, they needed to prove from McLean & Aiken that product was in stock. So there was a back and forth. It was, Zach is here, he can testify to how hard it was. So, yeah, so it took us several months to get that in place, but now we think we have the pattern in place, and we're hoping that we can just push it out to all the stores on the platform. But it's a very interesting way that we want to go with. The other thing about what we have going with Zach, at McLean & Aiken, if this works, is that you'll be able to take, if you have a YouTube channel, this is a very big deal. You can do live YouTube feeds, and you can also do, let's say, YouTube reviews of books. You can have the product appear on that page. So if you're in Google, YouTube is owned by Google, you can have the book will appear on the video or but just directly below the video. It's one click and they land on your website and they can purchase the book directly. That's a huge, huge deal. And YouTube is not preventing you. They're not taking anything from you on this either. This is like, there's no cost for this right now. So we'll see what happens later on, but this is a fairly new thing that they've pushed. All right. So that's that component of it. Let me get to the next one here. Okay. The experience economy. The trend. While AI is making the web feel more robotic, humans are craving real-world connections more than ever. The loneliness epidemic is real, and your store is the cure. The advantage. Amazon can ship a book to a doorstep in 24 hours, but they cannot host a midnight release party. This cannot host they cannot host a book and brews night. They cannot let a child meet their favorite illustrator. That is the moat that you're building up around your store. So the website as a community hub, the strategy, stop thinking of your website just as a vending machine for books. Think of it as your event headquarters. Now there's some new data that I couldn't believe this. So we have an agreement with Eventbrite that is discounts for member stores, ABA member stores. And you can go in, I'm sure many of you are using the Eventbrite feature. They give us the aggregated data that comes back. Last year, I believe it was 450,000 tickets were sold. I'm sorry, 2024, 450,000 tickets were sold. And last year, it was almost 1 million tickets were sold. That's a 1-year jump. That's incredible. I can't, it's amazing the amount of tickets that are being sold. That doesn't even include the ticketing system we have built into eCommerce as well. Events it's an amazing bonus for your store. If you're not doing them, you have to do them and you have to push them more. You create unique content from that. You have the calendar on your system. All of those things, talking about the events before and after are a big deal. Building those pages. And we also have, as Andy had mentioned before, we're using we're putting little pieces of code on these calendared events that show up very well in Google search results, and the AI is picking up that code. So it's going to show the date that it's occurring. It's going to show the time it's occurring. It's being put directly into the AI results. So if they're looking for an event in there, show me an event I can go to in my area on Saturday, it's very likely it's going to give a much more specific information. And this is for the 2.0 platform. So we're really trying to push that component of it. Again, I'm trying to think of things that are not reproducible by Amazon and large, big retailers. And this is another one. Let's see here. Let's go on to the next.
So I think that kind of a theme that's coming up is there are scary things that are going on that we're worried about, and there are things that are getting worse. But there are also things that are providing new opportunities, such as free listings on Google Merchant Center, YouTube becoming a better channel for selling books, and events. And in general, keep in mind, compared to 2019, indie online sales are up about 600%. Now, e-commerce grew 27% as part of retail during that period. But indie commerce sales are way up. Bookshop.org is additive. We didn't exist in 2019. Now we exist. Last year, we grew 50% or 55%. Indie commerce grew 25% or something. 22%. So indie commerce is growing. Bookshop is growing. So even though it's all changing, there are new opportunities, and we are very aggressively pursuing them, and we're succeeding right now. So I don't want it to seem like the beginning was too pessimistic, because while we are worried about certain things and trying to head them off before they become a real problem, there are new opportunities coming up. And so one of the things that Phil is talking about, local listings, is really important. And that's one thing I want to emphasize. If there's anybody in this room that doesn't have your store yet on Google My Business, get it on there, because Google My Business is what Google uses to do local listings. So if somebody wants to find a bookshop in their area, if you want your store to show up on Google Maps correctly, if you want people to be able to leave positive reviews for your store in Google, all these things matter a lot, especially as local search becomes like a safe haven for search results where general global search results are becoming more and more taken over by AI. So do Google My Business, make sure that it's robust, but add photos, tell your friends to add a couple reviews, and another thing that still works is niche content. We still get a lot of traffic to bookshop.org for very specific searches, like best calendars to give as a gift for 2026. Could drive a lot of traffic in November and December. Like so-and-so book series in order still drives a lot of traffic. So very specific queries can still work in SEO. Like SEO is being diluted. It's not as effective as it was, but it's still, I think, worth doing. And especially when you're talking about niche content, especially the content that you're most qualified to tell people about. But always make sure that when you title things, you're titling it with some of the words that somebody would type into a Google search if they were looking for that list. So if you have something like mysteries that I loved, well, if somebody's searching for books, they might type in like best book mysteries. If it's broad as mysteries, maybe they're going to get a bunch of results for TV shows, right? So you want to put the word book in that list title, those kind of things. So when you are doing niche content, just make sure it's SEO friendly think about, like, if I was looking for this on Google, what words would I include in that search? Make sure those words are in your title, that kind of thing.
Okay, yes. Future predictions. Let's see here. Oh, okay. So these are my future predictions. Again, we covered some of this stuff.
I think we're on that last slide.
We're on the last slide?
Yeah.
Let me go back here. Here we go. Oh, this is okay. So events driving more sales. Move from just listing events to make them to making the website an event destination. It's a big deal. Ticketing, community building, bridging the gap between digital and physical. Google Merchant Center. It's about letting Google know what's on your physical shelves right now. If someone searches Iron Flame book near me, Google, YouTube can say in stock at your store 2 miles away, and they will do that. They're again prioritizing local search. Instead of searching bookstores, people ask, where is a cozy bookstore with a cafe and kids section? To show up here, your website needs to explicitly answer questions and have great reviews. The review thing's a big deal. Asking for reviews is a big deal. Amazon has 2-day shipping, but indies have pickup at store. Shoppers want instant gratification without the guilt of big box retail. Integrating in-store inventory for buy online, pickup in store. And this is yours.
I think we can skip it. I think I talked about everything on here already.
I think we both did. All right, I guess questions?
Well, we could. How to future-proof. As Phil said, like own your own customer. Everybody else is trying to own your customers too. Own your own customer. Now, if you get customers through bookshop.org, which at least 90% of you do, you can download that list. We don't give customer data to anybody under any circumstances. We never sell it, but we do give it to our bookstore affiliates because we consider those your customers, which means you can always go into your dashboard and download a spreadsheet of all of your sales, which includes their emails. And so if you use MailChimp, if you use Constant Contact, or whatever you use for email, download that customer list and upload it to your email platform. You can either send those customers to Bookshop for the next purchase if you want to do a promotion, or you can send them to your own website. Like if you prefer to sell in your own website, we don't mind if you download your customer list of people that discovered you on Bookshop and then start sending them directly to your eCommerce site. That's fine with us. All that matters to us is that you form that direct relationship with your customer. You can contact them. You have that so that you don't have to worry about losing them if a social media platform changes its policies and tries to restrict your access to them. Digital books are becoming an increasingly important new revenue stream. We launched them last year. They're already 5% of our sales. You can list digital books on your eCommerce site by talking to Phil at the eCommerce crew and checking a box. And if you check that box, then ebooks will show up as a potential format. We found that it has been a major driver of sales also because it allows us to offer whatever book people are looking for, whether or not Ingram or Bookazine have it in stock, right? Like there's limited stock. There's no limits on stock for ebooks. So it's a great, I think it'll be years before independent bookstores are recommending ebooks regularly, or if that ever happens. And I understand why you might not want to. But if a customer needs to read a book tomorrow for their book club, and you don't have it in stock and it's going to take too long to special order, you could suggest that they buy the ebook through you, and that the way they can read it on their phone that night and be prepared for their book club the next day. So there are scenarios where you might want to recommend an ebook, and you can sell them either directly through your bookshop.org page or through eCommerce or Book Manager. We also have an integration with Book Manager. You can turn that on, and those listings can appear on your site in the same way that Libro.fm offers a similar link for buying an audiobook. So I would lean into those because we're seeing growth there. And if your profit margin at the end of the year is 2%, and you can increase your sales by 5% digitally without having to worry about stock or fulfillment or anything else, I think it's potentially a big boon. As Phil brought up, tying your online community to your in-store community, use social media platforms to drive people into your store. I'm sure you're already doing that, but that's really important. And another thing, I just want to recommend that everybody attend bookshop.org's information sessions. If you have a bookshop.org page, whether it's your primary e-commerce site, which it is for many, many bookstores, or whether you prefer people shop at your eCommerce site or your Book Manager site, or if you have Square or whatever, you can still come to our information sessions. You can ask questions, and we can give you some good advice that you can probably apply wherever you're trying to send customers. So I want to recommend that you attend those and you make sure that you're on our email list.
Q&A. I got it. Switch is the bottom. Is it on? Tap the top. Nope. There you go.
Hi. I want to go back to the slide where you were talking about how Google search used to work with a list of links, and now it's showing an AI response and not the links. So, and you guys kind of mentioned this the other day at the first session about like using AI to fight AI and all that. Someone's going to monetize that at some point. If there's no click-through now, somehow there will be. Someone's going to jump in and find a way to monetize those AI responses. And as much as I love the ABA and being an ABA member, you'll forgive me if I have trouble believing that the American Booksellers Association is going to be the one to defeat that particular part of AI.
No.
So I guess my question is, are there discussions at the ABA to potentially reach out and contract with a tech firm, a cybersecurity firm, someone on the outside that can consult or help eCommerce or the ABA fight this, rather than try to, lose ground and try to do it all on our own?
Yeah, we've had numerous internal discussions about this. We've also talked to outside people as well. It's shaking out right now. And I know from my own experience with the internet in the beginning of it, it shakes out quite a bit. We need to see what it's going to develop into. This is too early a stage to go forward and say, this is the way it's going to be. And they are going to monetize it. There's no question about that. They have to. They're spending a fortune right now, and you're going to have a lot of players start dropping off because they can't afford it to compete anymore at that level. And so, yeah, we're taking this very seriously. I mean, I'm having numerous conversations daily with people pretty much about this. So, yeah, very much so. I personally take it seriously, and we'll go down that path.
Hi, Nick from Bath in the UK. I want to ask a really, really short question and then a separate one. Andy, on the very first slide, you had all the different sites that punish outbound links. Instagram wasn't mentioned, but I assume that's in that category?
Well, actually, Instagram doesn't, but they only allow outbound links in your bio.
Right.
So,
okay, yeah.
those links, if somebody has to actually navigate to your bio to reach those links, but they don't restrict access to your bio.
So that's
it's kind of like by default it is restricted.
Yeah. Okay. And I guess my main question was about what both of your views are on paid advertising on Facebook or Google. So we have a large subscriptions business. So although I don't actually believe in paying for advertising for my business, believe in the power of PR. But the one exception is around our subscription program in the UK, because it's a certain size. We've used Google advertising. Sometimes we might also pay for a small amount of advertising for an event if it's got a large reach, a much smaller spend. I just wonder if you've got any thoughts on the effectiveness of that and how that has changed in the last period.
Yeah, well, it's all getting more expensive for sure. But we do it. I have mixed feelings about it. I also have mixed feelings about generally the whole publishing industry spending so much money on Google, Facebook, and Amazon, because I don't think that they're great partners, And so it's a little, with some hesitation that I'll spend money on Meta, but Threads is a big community of readers and book lovers, and so we want to reach those people. And there are a lot of people who love books on Instagram. And so my general philosophy is you have to go where the readers are. You can't be holier than thou and end up dying off because nobody sees you or thinks about you. So Meta ads, it's a very complicated question because also they don't tell you the truth about how effective their ads are. Right, so you got to divide it by two. When they tell you you're getting what they call a ROAS, which is return on ad spend. So they might say your ROAS is $10, which means for every dollar you spend, you're getting $10 in sales. I would just cut that in half to find out what your real ROAS is, because they haven't been honest about what the effectiveness is of these ads. Now, with all that said, we do run ads on Facebook and Instagram and Threads. They seem to be effective. better than not running them. For an e-commerce company, most e-commerce companies our size will spend 15 to 30% of their total revenue on digital advertising. We spend 2%. So it's not our primary channel. We're really word of mouth. But we do spend 2% of our revenue, which isn't that small. Most of it is on Google because that is the biggest bang for their buck, especially if you're in Merchant Center. And Merchant Center is hard to set up. But it's really encouraging that eCommerce is setting up Merchant Center for stores because that could really help. Because if your products are on Merchant Center, your Google ads will be more effective because then they kind of are integrated with Google ads and they'll show up on Google shopping results at the top of your page. So we spend most of our money on Google. We spend some money on Meta. And then we're also experimenting with Reddit ads where you can target specific conversations, which is kind of cool. Like if you're doing the big Facebook tell-all, careless people, like we were able to actually target that to conversations on Reddit where people were talking about Facebook. So that's an interesting thing to play around with. And there's new platforms like Brave, which has an ad program. Pinterest ads. We're kind of playing around with all of these with a small amount of budget to see like what will work. There's nothing yet that's like a resounding success. It's still Google's the best, Meta's the next best, and everything else is kind of experimental.
I've got kind of a nuts and bolts question for Phil that's going off a little of what Andy was talking about there. As a millennial that like grew up and lives on the internet, I think that having like this book is available nearby, fed in from our LSI data, is kind of vital for the future of our website success. And you talked a little bit about that, but if you could talk a little bit more about the ABA's next steps for making that happen, and ideally like a timeline for when that might be happening as well, that would be great.
Yeah, so getting back to Zach over here from McLean & Aiken, we're basically in a test phase right now. We've been doing it for the past couple months. We're seeing an uptick in the number of views of those things, but we have to do the conversion rate of those things. And that's another step. But I don't want to really stop it until I see how high it goes. And then if it levels off, we have to do this. I can't think of a reason why we can't do this. We need to fill in for what's going on with those organic search results that are disappearing. And it's so funny because I went into AI and I said, what can I do to compensate for the loss of what I'm getting from Google? And it came back and said, Merchant Center might be a way to go with this. And then we started to investigate it. And Matt Supko, Matt, where are you? Oh, there you are. So I talked to Matt about this. I've talked about it for years. He knows I've been wanting to do this since I got hired 10 years ago to some degree. And now it's become a point where we have to do this. There's no question anymore. We've been building out all of these software components for the new platform. But if we lose 40% of the sales that are occurring on our platform across those 500, 600 sites are coming from Google search results. And we lose that. We have to come up with something to compensate. And this is, I think, a key component of that.
Okay, I'm trying to keep track of who had hands up first. Okay, we'll go this way, and then over there, and then that way.
Hi, Ramonda Young with Mahogany Books. My question is, you mentioned ChatGPT is sending traffic your way. And my question is it just with the questions that they're saying, where should I buy this book? How is that leading directly to bookshop.org or any site? It's just with the question.
I mean, unfortunately, I wish I knew because we don't get that query. Like with Google search results, we do actually get to see what the queries are. But with ChatGPT, we don't get to see the queries. I can only imagine that people are asking, like, where should I buy this book? Because that's the only circumstances in which like ChatGPT would link to a retail site. It's not monetized, so they're not making any money. They're not an affiliate. But there obviously are certain circumstances where people are asking questions where the answer is buy the book on bookshop.org. It's not huge compared to like if they're getting 800 million people a week, of course that's globally, so maybe 100 million in the US, we're getting 2,000 customers like a week. So it's only a very small percentage that are being sent to Bookshop. But it's significant in that like last year it was 0. Now it's 2,000. So we definitely want to make sure that we encourage that to continue. And I'm also trying to get meetings like I'm talking. We love Stripe. Stripe is our payment provider and also how we pay out our bookstores. I have a good relationship with them. I'm trying to get them a meeting, with them about like making sure that indies are incorporated in anything that they partner with any AI company. Like Shopify is trying to do the same thing, just trying to make sure that like small businesses are not left behind in this conversion. So we are really, really actively fighting to make sure that we're not a second thought or that we don't have to play catch up because suddenly the entire AI ecosystem is linking to like the highest bidder. But as Phil said, they're desperate for money. They're burning like 10 times what they're earning. So it's very dangerous. It's a real danger that like they will go to the highest bidder because people, Amazon can pay for ChatGPT traffic, and so can Target, and so can Walmart. So it's going to be tricky.
My last question to that is, I know there's a lot of talk of people actually leaving ChatGPT, believe it or not. There's still a lot of people using it. But is there any thought to going to Claude or looking into those other AI mechanisms that are on the rise?
Yeah. I mean, there's like a whole different variety of thoughts about AI companies. And, some people feel like Anthropic is the good guy. Some people think it's not really true. But one thing that is definitely true is Anthropic is telling the administration that they can't use their tools without restrictions to spy on people or for military applications. And the other AI companies are not doing that. So to me, that means that Anthropic is probably better than the other ones. And Claude is Anthropic's AI. So yes, the answer is definitely if I had to vote for one to win, right now I would probably vote for Claude, and we want to be involved with anything that happens with Claude.
Yeah, we're seeing in Gemini is the one I've been playing around with quite a bit, and we are seeing that some of the stuff that we're doing with the events is showing up. They're pulling the data that way. So it's part of the feed that we're giving them that's been pretty much optimized for Google. Gemini is taking advantage of that. And I think that's probably going to happen with Merchant Center too at some point. I think they want a data feed. They want to know what the inventory is available. They want to know what's going on daily within that site. And I think we're going to just see more and more of this where the AI is going to want direct data feeds, because I don't like them scraping the site. I don't like them pounding us over and over again. And we're actually trying to limit them now because they're coming in at such a rate that we have no choice. So they are adjusting, though. Yes.
Oh, I have that. TJ from RG Julia Booksellers. First off, I just want to say I'm really excited to hear both of you doing a lot of these things with the Merchant Center and with TikTok Shop, because I started looking into setting this up ourselves, and it does seem like a lot of work. So that would be incredible if there was a bookshop. We use both. We're on eCommerce, but we also use Bookshop as well. So I just want to applaud that and thank you guys, because I'm not a very technical person. To be able to set all, like you said, the feeds and stuff are the information that they want. So if it can be drawn directly from the websites and from you guys, that's amazing. Are you also considering for social media? Because I know there's a Merchant Center in Meta as well. Do you know if this, again, I'm not on the technical side, but they also have a Merchant Center on Instagram where you can, if anyone's ever seen it, like in a picture, a product will pop right up right there where you can click on it and it goes. I didn't know if this.
It's similar to what YouTube does with the Google Merchant Center. Yeah. We want to finish this one first.
Okay, so this is kind of the first test.
Yeah, definitely.
I didn't know if you could use the same feeds or anything. Again, I'm not as technical as.
No, it's quite different. We were very surprised about how difficult it would be for a small store to be able to do this. So we're hoping that we can smooth things out and make it an easy transition. No matter what, there's going to be some things that you have to do, as Zach can attest to. Frankly, it was quite difficult to get them to approve things that we're pushing through.
I know there's a lot with shipping and everything too.
Yeah.
Again, you're doing more of the local, but if you do the regular Google Merchant, there's a lot with like returns and shipping.
Exactly. It looks the same. It's the same place. It's just there's different constraints about what they want for local listings. They want to make sure that inventory that you say is on your shelves is actually on your shelves.
Got it.
So that was a really difficult factor.
Okay. Well, excited to see what happens, and
Thanks.
hopefully we all get access to.
I think we're done. I think
We
our
out of
time
time?
is gone. Yeah.
Okay, we're at time. Do you want to
Sorry,
just
guys.
ask?
Yeah. We'll be here afterwards too if you want to come up.
Yeah.
I'm Panat. I own Dungeon Books in Jersey City. I'm also a software engineer at an AI startup. A lot of book communities have moved off social media platforms into things like Discord and group chats, which don't support embedded web widgets. I wanted to let my customers discover and buy books through bookshops.org on those platforms, but there's no public-facing API. So I have to reverse engineer like some undocumented endpoints just to provide validated ISVN and generate affiliate links programmatically. It works, but it's very fragile. As communities keep moving to chat-first platforms, is bookshop.org considering a public-facing API or any kind of developer program that lets indie bookstores build these kind of integrations without relying on workarounds?
Yeah, the short answer is yes. We have an API, and we're working with a small subset of partners right now, like trying to get on places like BookBub, for example, using the API. And the next phase would be to make it public. But even in between making it public and working with a small group of partners, we could let indie bookstores that are tech savvy and want to use the API in it, even if it's not a public API. So you can just send me an email, just andy@bookshop.org, and I can keep you abreast of those. That's that. Thumbs up. Well, thank you all so much.
Thank you very much.
We're around.
Thank you for listening to Booked, the bookstore education podcast brought to you by the American Booksellers Association. Don't forget to subscribe to the show on your favorite podcast app. Additional educational resources can always be found on the ABA site at www.bookweb.org. Happy reading!